Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I'm your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. We're not in the low-end range today, but these are wines I've never tried. Avenia Cellars, and with us is Matthew Erlandson?
Yep.
Yes, Matthew Erlandson. Thanks for coming, Matthew.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
He is the Northwest Sales and Marketing Manager, and he is also the Assistant Winemaker with Chris Peterson. And Chris Peterson used to be the Cellar Master at Avennia Cellars for about 7 years, so he's got good pedigree. Tell us the story about Avenia. How did it get started? Where's it going?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of the short of it. Chris was at DeLille for a number of years, 7 or 8 years. And the last year he was there, he had an intern whose name was Marty Talker, who was a Microsoft exec that had just kind of graduated from Microsoft, if you will, and was retired and was kind of looking for a project. And they kind of came up with an idea of creating a brand that they could focus on really great fruit, really great growers, and making a wine in this particular style, in the old world style, but that's unmistakably Washington. So Chris, like myself, the wines that he drank when he was drinking wine were from the Southern Rhone, because they're affordable and they're great wines, and they kind of get you in wine drinking. So Avenia is the Latin root for the city of Avignon, from the wines that he kind of really wanted to focus on at that time. So the first vineyard that he locked down was Boucher.
Not a bad vineyard to lock down.
Yeah, so he had known Dick from his days at the Walla Community College, where he went to school for wine production and through DeLille and whatnot. So, but yeah, the focus is old world techniques. We don't use any yeast through primary or mallow on the reds or whites or rosés, so it's all native. And we're really striving towards terroir-driven wines, but with that being said, unmistakably Washington, because the fruit is coming from Washington. We want it to taste like it came from Washington, but yeah, they're just a little bit different. They're not the big fruit bombs, they're elegant, they're balanced, they have natural acidity, and we're working with just amazing vineyards. So we're pretty lucky as a young winery. I mean, the winery started in 2010, so these wines here, in 2011, this is our second release. So
wow.
But we're working with Boucher and Red Willow and Clipson and Chute de Cheval and Discovery and Old Block, Sagemore Bacchus, and the list goes on and on and on. So yeah, pretty lucky. So
it's nice to have those connections.
For sure.
So you went the route of naming them all. Like this one's Arnaut. Is that right?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The names of the wines aren't connected except for the two flagship wines. So the Sestina and the Arnaut are connected.
Okay.
But for these 4 wines, the first wine is the Justine, and Justine is the name of a 1950s novel by Lawrence Durrell, and Justine is a heroine in that movie, and she's kind of dark and Mediterranean, mysterious, and as is this wine. So Chris always says that this is where he uses liberal arts degree, or liberal arts degree was naming these wines. So, but Gravura is a Grave style blend, so it's kind of an eau de Grave,
okay.
a little bit more.
Watch the drips there.
Merlot.
I'm not the best dumper in the world. Sorry, didn't mean to.
No, not at all. I guess I can talk about the wines too when we get to them. Right?
Sure.
So this is Justine. So this is Southern Rhone blend, 46 Grenache, 30 Morvet, 24 Syrah. Grenache comes from Alder Ridge. The Morvet comes from
I guess you could taste
Iona. No, and the Syrah comes from Angela's Vineyard, which Angela's Vineyard is a fairly new project that was planted by the guys at FSD, and it is managed by Duke
okay.
in Red Mountain. So,
how many vineyards does Duke manage? You got it there, Mike?
I couldn't tell you.
It's a bit hard to read because it's white.
Okay, but well, I can read it. Here.
Okay.
Tell me where. Right there?
There you go.
All right. So this is the Avenia label. This rolls in at $28. The Rome style blend, did you say the blend? 46 Grenache, 30 Mourvèdre, 24% Syrah. All from very well-known vineyards. Except for the, what was the Angels?
The Angelus vineyard.
Angelus vineyard.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's not your typical GSM. It's a GMS, but it's cool. It's got different components at different areas of the Columbia Valley. It's got that nice, you know, black olive and smoked meat and, you know, leather, and it's, you know, super easy to drink. No new wood on this. It's 100% neutral French for 16 months.
Oh, really?
We use all French wood,
Cool.
but this particular wine is completely neutral. So it's a very approachable wine. It's great with food.
So is that that's based on the method down in the southern realm? They don't use a lot of new oak
Correct.
down there, so.
Yeah, and then again, all native, you know, so it actually brings more of that terroir, more of the grape into the wine. So,
Right. So he means native yeast. He means the yeast that is actually part of the grapes. It's attached to the grapes. A lot of wineries will add different yeast for different flavors.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
we could probably have a whole book on the amount of yeast that are out there. They said, in fact, the yeast market now, what did I read, was up 30 million a year. I just read that in the Wine Business Weekly or something. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so most, especially in the New World, let's say in North America, the typical practice is to, when bringing your fruit, you kill the native yeast with potassium sulfide or SO2, and then you inoculate it with, you know, a yeast that's created in the lab. And yeah, it does give the wine character. It's also safer. You know, it
Sure.
protects the wine, and it goes through primary fermentation quicker. There's less oxidation, but if done right, and you know,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to
native
adding
yeast,
certain kind of yeast.
it's definitely you know, we definitely probably lose a little bit more sleep at night during
Sure.
harvest, you know, but you know, for Chris, it's.
Have you ever lost a batch because of stuck fermentation?
We haven't.
Okay.
We haven't.
There you go.
We've heard more stories, but you know, we definitely have gotten into a lag phase, and wondered if it was going to keep going, but it has. It's kept going.
All right.
So
There you
yeah,
go.
so far so good. So
Sweet.
Many
That's
wineries,
good.
Stan, have,
Did I ask you to talk?
I know.
Did I ask you to talk?
No.
Did I? Okay. Thank you. What do you want to say?
So when they started their winery, they went into a space that was a non-existing winery. A lot of wineries say they do native yeast, but native yeast could have been from previous
Sure,
years and
sure,
vintages.
sure.
The space that they occupied had no previous yeast, so it would have been really a virgin environment.
Yeah.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
All right. So let's not get too geeky here, but that is a good point. I know Luke Bradford said that he had some yeast hanging around his facility, and he thought for sure that he said he sprayed and washed and cleaned, and he said he still couldn't get rid of
Oh yeah.
some of the influence of that. So just for you guys out there that want to know about that, the yeast part of it is a big deal in winemaking, and a lot of like he said, a lot of winemakers are afraid to go with native yeast because they're afraid the fermentation will stop. But in their case, it hasn't happened. So there we go. So we're now trying. We got a close-up of the Avennia Justine, sort of a GMS blend. Okay, let's see what we get on this baby. I'm curious. I've never had Avennia wines. Never. By the way, we're at Mike's Wine Bar and Cafe. Mike was kind enough to let us use it again. I love using the spot. Love it. All the noise in the background. In about another month, that won't be there. You know, month and a half.
You'll still be there, so there'll be plenty of noise. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're one to talk. Got a lot of red flowers on this one.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's got that kind of
Tobacco-y.
but yeah, tobacco and some nice red fruit, you know, but not heavy red fruit, but you know, some nice raspberries
Yeah,
and strawberries, some from
absolutely.
the Grenache. So it's kind of cool with having as much more vet as it does in the mid palate. You know, you do get that leather and that meat, and you know, I get that kind of briny black olive, which is kind of cool. It goes, like I said before, it goes so well with food.
Yeah, usually
grilled meats, you know, it just goes with everything. So
that's interesting. Usually I don't listen to any winemaker or assistant winemakers description of a wine.
Yeah.
But you hit nailed it on the head. There's black olive, there's leather, there's beauty bark, there's all this old world stuff, but you do get that new world kind of reddish fruit that comes through. There's no funk. Now, if this was from Southern Rhone, you definitely have that funk that comes with that. So that's how you know it's a new world. But there's even minerality, which is
absolutely
incredible. I like that.
Yeah, it's got enough. It's got 24% Syrah, and that kind of brings that from that vineyard. Brings a little bit of that minerality way on the back end.
Wow.
It's going to just last and last and last. So
That is.
And then, like I said before, Chris is really focused on picking the fruit right. And granted, we're working with amazing vineyard managers that work with Chris, but it's important for Chris to pick the fruit to where there's naturally occurring acidity, where we don't have to add tartar to fermenters or bottle order. So that long finish.
Yeah, very long finish. That is an amazing wine. I can hardly wait to try the rest of them.
So this second wine is, and these are all 2011.
Okay. Tough finish, by the way, 11. I suppose Chris is going to tell me. I suppose you're going to say you liked tough finishes.
Yeah, 2010, 2011 were great. 2010 was tough, and then 2011 came along and it was even tougher. But
what was tough about 10? Too hot?
No, it was cool as well. It wasn't as cool as 2011, but it was definitely cooler than 2009 and 2008. But to make wines that are a little lower in alcohol and higher in natural acidity, and and to make the wines that they don't have pyrazine, they're not unripe, but they have great flavor. 2011 was tough. So.
Sure. So the pyrazine is the green flavors you get. Okay, Mike, are you messing with my camera?
Don't make me come down there. Don't move it.
Hey, you in the audience, would you like to see an arm wrestle between Mike and I?
I would like to see that.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Avennia Gravura. Now I love the fact that you put the blend on the back. I hate that when wineries don't. So this is 63% Cab Sauv, 29% Merlot, 8% Cab Franc. Very much a Bordeaux blend. And this one rolls in at $26. So there you go. So far you guys are under Mike. You don't go that big heady $35.99 on everything. For an ugly label, no less. Hey, by the way, do you have a bottle of your wine?
I do.
Can you bring it over here, Mike? I want to show the audience why I always say it's an ugly label. Now, I'll tell you what.
There is no bad publicity.
No, Mike makes great wines. Don't get me wrong. I love his wines. And his wife hates me because she designed this label, and I know the women like it. But you put this in a retail store, and trust me, I have every one of his wines in my store. You can't see it. Now, Mike's big on Native American heritage, so I appreciate that. I have the deepest respect for the dude, even though I can't.
There we go.
All right, you got it?
Now let's take a little bit longer with it.
No, okay, that's good enough. By the way, I hope you guys are looking forward to my Low Man Red Coca-Cola episode. All right.
So we make we make two left bank Bordeaux blends, and essentially Chris's mission, if you will, was to make his first growth, which is the Sestina, which we'll try next.
Okay.
And then what doesn't make the Sestina is kind of recreated in the Gravura, which is kind of like our not red table wine, but our lower end kind of entry level.
Entry level.
So.
Now we don't have that here, do we?
Yeah.
That's this one. Okay.
So
this is your entry level.
It is. So this is more of a raw style, a little bit more Merlot.
Okay.
Hence the name Gravura. But Gravura is also a French printing press. So with that being said, the printing press is it's a French style wine, but reprinted in American, in Washington style. So again, we want the wines to be unmistakably Washington, but in a restaurant. So this fruit. The cab comes from a little bit of Dionysus.
Okay.
A little bit of red willow planted in and a little bit of Angelus Cab, which
Okay.
was the
Gotcha.
FSD project. All of the Merlot comes from Clipson Vineyard, planted in '89, and then all of the Cab Franc comes from Sagemore Bacchus. 50% new French, 21 months. So,
All right.
yeah.
So very, it does have a very Bordeaux-ish nose. Sans the funk. Can you keep it down back there, please? I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you please keep it down?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny how different these two Bordeaux blends are. In composition, they're so close, but in terms of vineyards, this one has more of the quintessential kind of, red fruit cab with that dusty tannin, leather, tobacco, whereas the Sestina you'll see is so much different because of the vineyards. But,
Has a nice grip on the back end, which I like.
yeah, absolutely.
Seriously good food wine.
Absolutely.
And a lot of
that's-
minerality again.
Yeah, yeah. And, with the naturally occurring acidity and balanced wines, that's, for Chris, that's a kind of a huge benchmark to make, is to have wines with the front, middle, and back.
And this is all neutral oak, or is this?
No, 50%
I
new
was going to
French.
say, I was getting, I'm getting some vanilla
Oh, yeah.
from the oak there.
So,
A well-balanced wine, very well made.
that is
Okay. I'm starting to become an Avenia fan, like in 2 bottles. That's crazy. Ritz. Nice work, guys. I'm impressed. I am impressed. Are you impressed, Mike?
They are very nice.
Yes.
They are very nice. Elegant.
good word.
Well, they're elegant. They got some power. I mean, I wouldn't say they were super feminine,
Sure.
but by the same token, I mean, they got.
They've got a velvet characteristic though in the palate,
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the.
Okay, we're gonna get a shoot on here. The Sestina from Avennia, Columbia Valley red wine, 2011, $41. You got it, Mike? You want to shoot it close up? I know they all look the same, but we just want them to get the label in their head. 72% Cab, 19% Merlot, 9% Cab Franc. So predominantly Cab based.
Yep.
All right, got it, Mike?
Yes.
This will be the last one we show up close. We don't have to show the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely more of a, true left bank.
Left bank, yep.
Oh yeah, but about 10%.
Boy, the
more
nose is
cab.
entirely
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Entirely different.
And
This is darker fruit with a little bit of, I get a little herbaceousness on
yes, perfect. Yeah, so more of that kind of grassy, fresh herb, definitely Bordeaux-esque,
it. Yeah, green bell pepper a
So
little
the
bit.
difference here really is the age of the vineyard. So it's 72% cab, but 50% of that cab was planted in 1972 at Sagemore Bacchus. So 40-year-old cab vines out of Washington. The other 50% is cab from Red Willow planted in '85.
Yeah.
So old cab, which gives it that kind of fresh herbs.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like unripe green, but I hate to use the word green, but yeah, you get on the head. So, and then all of the Merlot is from Red Willow planted in 1985, so 27-year-old Merlot. And then all of the Cab Franc again comes from Sagemore Bacchus. This is 70% new French.
Okay.
21
So they-
but
Now-
super well integrated. You think for 70% new for 2011, only
Yeah.
4 years old.
Yeah.
It's very well integrated. So.
And it's so funny, Red Willow, this reminds me of a David Lake, an old David Lake cab, the nose does. I can remember, I was a huge fan of that vineyard.
Yeah. So Sestina and Arnaut are connected in the way of Daniel Arnaut was a 15th century French troubadour who created the form of poetry called the Sestina. And the Sestina is a form of poetry with 6 lines, a 6-line stanza, and each word at the end of each line of the stanza needs to match up with the next lines of the next stanza. And again, Chris's idea was that you could write a Sestina from a French poem, American poetry from French into Chinese, whatever, and essentially he's taking a French style of winemaking and putting it into an American.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
That's
So,
an interesting
yeah,
story. I hope
so-
they can all hear you. We got quite a bit of noise going on. We're good?
Yeah.
You can hear him really well?
You can hear him perfectly. We hear you too well.
That's the idea.
So-
Okay, no,
Yeah,
the thing about these wines that I find very interesting is this is a young wine.
Yes.
It's got 5 years, I think, before it really opens up. You can feel it kind of brooding underneath, and it really comes through on the finish. A lot of tobacco, red flowers, all that coming through. A lot of cherry.
Yeah, it's definitely a baby. It's definitely a baby. But the
I'm
potential.
gonna buy one of these and tuck it away because I guarantee you,
Yeah.
5 to 8 years,
Yeah.
that thing is going to explode. So yeah, definitely done in a very old world style. Not as much minerals on this one as I found on the Merlot based one.
I agree.
A little bit more subtle. This is more feminine than the Merlot based one. For those of you that think that Merlot's a wimp, got another thing coming. All right, do a little rinse here. Now this is, I'm assuming, the Syrah based one.
It's 100% strong.
Oh, there you go. All right, Mike.
Notice the
Mike's
size
got
of
the
the
glass
glass stand.
there.
Yeah, size matters, Stan.
You know what they say about guys with big glasses?
They're blind.
Exactly.
That sounds really good today.
So this is we're not going to do a close up. They all look, all the labels are the same, but this is 100% Boucher Vineyard Syrah, and Dick Boucher's fruit is highly sought after. I don't think you'd have to know him to get some of this fruit, wouldn't you?
Yeah, especially these plantings,
Sure.
which I'll go into. But
All right.
yeah,
Give us a little take on where these come from. What unfined, unfiltered.
all the reds are.
Okay.
So yeah, 100% Syrah, single vineyard grown from Boucher Vineyard in Yakima, which is managed by Dick Boucher. We're lucky enough, we're actually the only winery to get both of his old blocks. So this fruit was planted in '94,
Okay.
which is the site at his home, and then the site called Factory Road, kind of down the hill, was planted in '96. So take both of those and we blend those together. We can stick them in about 15% new French oak, mostly on puncheon, and then about 15% of the clusters go back into the fermenter. So it brings a little bit more of that to the water, a little bit more of that vineyard. And about 16, 17 months on 15% new.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, Chris's whole thing is he's like, I bring this fruit in and try to get out of the way. You know, it's so good, it's so representative of where it comes from. Yeah, it's just, that's beautiful. So.
Okay. So how many gallons in a puncheon, basically? I just stir them
Yeah.
a barrel versus a puncheon. What's the difference
So
in
a
size?
standard barrel or a barrique is about, you know, they do range, but they're right around 59 gallons.
Okay.
If you get a thin stave, sometimes they're 62, but typically they're 225 liters.
Okay, so
A puncheon,
59 gallons.
yeah, a puncheon is 500 liters,
Okay.
so a little bit more than 2 barrels.
2 barrels.
So a barrel is 25 cases, puncheon is 50 cases,
Okay.
maybe 55.
So the bigger barrels give more breathing space for the wine, so it, well, with Syrah, you don't want
It's
a lot of
it's more
aggressive
round, it's less wood.
Yeah.
We find that for the grown varietals, even we use neutral puncheons for the Grenache and the Syrah, the Morbid. Chris just likes the mouthfeel that the bigger barrel puncheon gives. So it's just another experiment, you know.
Yeah. No, I think when I was over, I hung out with Josh Maloney from Milbrand for a while, and he was talking about how they like to use puncheons for Syrah versus, because the smaller the container, the more aggressive the oak on the wine. And with Syrah, of course, you don't want aggressive oak treatment. Well, unless you're, some wineries don't like it so much that.
Yeah, we don't use any puncheon on any order of varietals as of right now. It's just strictly grown. But yeah, this wine. It's kind of funny. I never really, you know, I made wine when I was in Walla Walla before I started working for these guys. And, you know, I drank the same wines all the time, but when I'm out in the market for these 8 months and we're not making the wines, I'm drinking these wines every week. And when you do that, you really get a sense of how wine changes. And this wine today, this is what this wine is supposed to taste like, which is kind of cool because, you know, wines go up and down in the bottle, and certain days you open them and they're on point, and some days they're not. This is on point, so which is nice. I don't always get that violet, you know, that violet kind of like dark blue flower in there with the Syrah.
You have a lot of like strawberries and blueberries on this.
But it also has a little bit of that, you know, kind of like that gaminess, kind of that briny black olive again, you know, which I really dig. So. Really get the olive oil.
Yeah, it's very olive meaty on the palate.
Yeah, and that's good.
Nice intensity. I mean, those violets come through at the finish just like crazy.
I want some pork butt, you know.
Yeah. How about a nice big portobello mushroom?
Yes.
We're vegetarians here.
This is a vegan restaurant.
This is, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's all right.
We like pork bellies, but we like them alive.
He tries to act like he's sensitive, but he's really not. But he is sensitive to his beliefs, so we respect you for that.
I think, does Chris use pressing early on the, he finishes off skins, doesn't he?
Yes, and it really depends on the year, it really depends on
Yeah.
the batch, but, you know, we're very particular, he's very particular about tasting those fermenters, and when it needs to come off the skins, he'll press it and finish it off the barrel.
Yeah, very smooth on the
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
Got that chalky tannin,
Yeah.
dusty tannins. Excellent wines. I mean, these are phenomenal. I'm very impressed with this lineup. I think that these will definitely find a spot in my store for sure. Looking forward to future releases. You guys are probably excited about 12.
Oh yeah. You know,
How long do you think
Advocate
until
just
12?
put out the release. So with these, so we, in King County, we're self-distributed, but outside of King County, we've hired the wonderful vendor, which we're incredibly stoked about. But the wines were almost sold out, so like outside of King County, there's only 5 cases of Justine. There's only 5 cases, or 10 cases of Arnaut, and 10 cases of Sestina. So, because we're sold out.
Okay.
And we sold out of our rosé and we sold out of our Sauvignon Blanc. The new vintage for Rhone, so the new Sauvignon, Justine, and Arnaut will come out mid-September.
Okay.
Which got crazy reviews from Advocate. I think they were like 94 to 96 and 93 to 95. And
All right.
even the Sauvignon was like 90.
Now, who's reviewing for the Advocate now up here in Washington?
Oh goodness gracious!
Is it Schilnick or?
No, Schilnick was out last year, and
That's all right. That's all right. Were you there when he?
I wasn't. Chris met with him, and I can't believe I can't remember his name. It's so embarrassing, but maybe it'll come to me. So, and then in February we'll release the new Gravura Sestina, and then in May we release the rosé.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited. We've got to get the hands on the rosé when it comes.
Jeb Dunnick.
Jeb Dunnick. Well, that's right. I read about that. He kind of just jumped on board with the Advocate. All right. Excellent job, Matthew. I want to thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seek out Avenia wines. They're really good. They're priced right for what you get, and I'm telling you, the Syrah and the Sestina are ageable.
Oh, yeah.
Easily
Absolutely.
10 years.
Absolutely.
Easily 10 years. So, what are you doing with the camera there?
Making
Can you
sure
center
that-
it up so we can do our conclusion?
There you go.
You got it?
We do.
He thinks he's a pro.
I am.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
And here's keeping the snob out of wine. Cut.